I'm joined by Shri Anil Kumar, with whom we will discuss in detail regarding Operation Dost, the search and rescue operations that are being conducted by the Indian Army in the earthquake-hit region of Turkey and Syria. According to the latest estimates, more than 20,000 are reported dead. And on this, we will discuss in detail with Shri Anil Kumar, former diplomat with the Government of India. Anil Kumarji, do tell us about the magnitude of the devastation in Turkey and Syria, where the Indian Army is right now operating under the code Operation Dost. How far have we succeeded in alleviating the problems faced by the two countries?
Well, as you know, that this is perhaps one of the worst natural disasters that Turkey and that region is facing. I'm told that in the history, this is the seventh time that this kind of a thing has happened, and this has killed nearly over 20,000 people, and a large number are still missing. There has been a tremendous loss and damage to the property and the life of the people. So this is a situation in which the international community has risen. But as you know that India, being always the first responder in its neighborhood and elsewhere, we have had a history of assisting people whenever there is a need, whenever there has been a problem, or especially in the case of natural disaster and calamities. And the history is replete with that as far as India is concerned. But this is something that not only in our immediate neighborhood, but also beyond. And that's what Prime Minister Modi, as soon as we learnt about the disaster, he ordered the authorities to immediately provide all the possible assistance to medical assistance, doctors, teams. And I understand that about 6 aircrafts, which are the big ones, have been sent with relief supplies, with medical hospitals have been set up to Turkey, as well as about 6 tons of supplies to Syria, which has also been handed over by the Indian Charge d'Affaires to the Deputy Minister in Syria, which has been widely appreciated. And the reports that have been coming from the ground, I find that Indian teams are doing an amazing job in a very, very difficult situation because there is inclement weather, there is an access problem, but they are doing extremely well. It is being highly appreciated. And some of the pictures that have come of a small child being saved, or people on the roads accosting the Indian teams and, felicitating them. So it is in this kind of a crisis, which is the worst crisis for a country at this time. I think that India has risen to the occasion and has shown to the world that it is a first responder in any crisis.
Mr. Anil Kumar, you have been a former diplomat with the Government of India. You have served with Indian Foreign Service. So what are the challenges before the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar when it comes to helping out Turkey and Syria? What are the diplomatic channels by which India is able to become a first responder and help out its allies?
Well, in such situations, as you know, number one, there has to be an intent and there has to be a capacity and capability of any country. Now, India over time has developed that capability. Of course, the Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam or helping others or considering world as a family has always been in the DNA of India and also in the DNA of the Indian foreign policy. As you know, in the capacity building assistance program under the ITEC that India provides to about 160 countries, we have also, during the pandemic, more than 150 countries, India provided all kinds of medical assistance, personnel, online training, and also the vaccines to about 96 countries. Now, those things are not easy to come by. You look at the Sri Lankan situation, you look at the Nepalese situation, you look at the Maldives, Afghanistan, wherever there was a need, India has risen to the occasion. Now, how does it come about? I mean, challenges obviously are there, but of course, the international community can only provide when the host government wants something. So as soon as they approach the international community for assistance, India immediately provides. We have the NDRF teams which are ready. We have a disaster management policy. We have an HADR system that is operative, ever so ready. We have control rooms that are working together. And therefore, we immediately get in touch with the foreign ministry of that country through our embassy, and we inform them about the assistance that we can provide, how it is going. So our external affairs minister, prime minister, they convey their messages of condolences, of support, and this all works out eventually because there is a streamlined process. But during an emergency, I must say that there are grassroots challenges sometimes of communicating, sometimes of how to handle, because a large number of countries are sending for the host country. Also, it becomes a logistical challenge. But that challenge is worth the trouble because you need that very much.
Do tell us something about the NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, and the Indian Army. How do they go about carrying out search and rescue operations? It's clearly very difficult just looking at the images of collapsed infrastructure and dead or injured people. How do they actually go about the operations and come out of it successfully?
Well, I'm not a military person, so I cannot tell you exactly how the operation is conducted physically. That only a military officer can brief you or who has handled this. But what I can tell you is that, the Indian military forces and the NDRF teams, they are very committed to the cause. They understand the gravity of the situation. They understand because they are dealing with it. They are prepared for it. This happens even in warlike situations. So they are continuously trained into dealing with these kind of situations where you have to extract your colleagues and sometimes in the war zones and all. So they are very well aware of it. More importantly, there is this feeling of doing good for the others, trying to save their lives. And I think that drives them. Of course, they know how to deal with equipments, how to use a particular kind of equipment, whether it is through the sound or otherwise. These days, the equipments with regard to extraction of people who are stuck in the debris have improved a great deal, So it is quite easy to understand if somebody is alive or somewhere. So they try to take out the people from where those are a priority. And then, of course, it goes down how far there are, because it depends on situation to situation. So it's a physical endurance, I think, and the commitment to the cause, which is more important than what it is. The Indian Army is always known for that.
What has been the response of President Erdogan in Turkey when it comes to India helping out via Operation Dost to alleviate their problems?
Well, I think that whatever reports are coming, that they have highly appreciated both on the streets and among the leadership about India's stance and India's immediate support that has gone in. Now, of course, the rest of the Western world is also coming up. A lot of countries are sending teams. But I think we were one of the first to reach there, and that is something that is appreciated. That shows two things. That India is willing to operate beyond its borders. It is willing to provide the leadership. And it is also a G20 country. As you know, Turkey, even though we had certain political differences over Pakistan and Kashmir for some time, but those are today not the reason to talk about. The main thing is how to alleviate the suffering of the people who are under the shadow of this disaster.
You mentioned about the search and rescue teams and how dog squads also accompanying personnel to both Turkey and Syria by the NDRF and the Indian Army. What about access to medical facilities? Is there a hospital makeshift being constructed that allows for the treatment of the injured and the administration of medicines and all the other facilities that go towards treating the injured?
As you know, that we have already sent 250 personnel, in these 5 or 6 aircrafts. Now, we have already deployed these teams working there, and there is I believe a 30-bed self-sustained field hospital has been created by the Indian Army, and in which advanced equipment, surgery, vehicles, ambulances. So this is a complete kind of a functional operation theater and the post-operative facilities, including X-rays, ventilators, and everything. So this is the kind of field hospitals that are created, and this Indian team has already created and is treating people.
Anil Kumarji, my final question is that, there's a current problem that both Turkey and Syria are facing, especially Turkey in terms of the number of killed and injured. How does a nation like that actually come out of it medium to long term? Because clearly the earthquake would have repercussions in the future as well.
Well, for that matter, actually any natural disaster or calamity that happens to any country causes a very major problem. And I must say that it has psychological problems for the people who are bereaved, who have lost their loved ones. So it is extremely difficult for them to get out of it in a short time. It takes time. It requires a lot of counseling and rehabilitating those people over time. But those who have lost their dear ones, for them it is a permanent loss. Many of them, it will take time for them to get employment, time to get their life back to normal. It takes years before people can really get out of these kind of traumas.
Well, thank you so much, Anil Kumarji, for being with us on this program on All India Radio.
Thank you so much.
On Operation Dost, India's relief and rescue operations in Turkey and Syria.
Thank you so much.